So when I was invited to come speak, think about what I wanted to share. And so really going to get into just some life lessons that I've learned throughout my career, which includes university. And we'll open it up at the end for questions. It's not meant to really just be like, hey, look at me, look at me. But I am probably double your age or almost. So I hope that the hope is that, I can pass some knowledge along as you guys are starting off in your careers. So just to start with just a little bit of background information. From D's to C-suite, that's what I call this. And just so you know, all these images were created with ChatGPT. So that's fun. I'm glad I chose this week to come because that was a recent release. Do you guys use ChatGPT a lot? I hope so. I hope you guys all raise your hand. Because someone like me in a leadership position who's looking to hire, I want to see people that are leaning into tools like that and using it to their advantage. Okay, just a little about me. I grew up in Colorado. I am the only boy of 7. Played soccer and lacrosse in high school. I went to BYU, Idaho for my undergrad. I graduated in 2008, and then I went back and got my MBA at the University of Utah and graduated in 2013. I'll talk a little bit more about that. I currently live in Pleasant Grove. I have 4 kids and a golden doodle, and I'm the CEO of Wallaroo, as Whitney said. And Wallaroo is a full-service digital marketing agency. So the way we kind of market it to our clients is acquisition, retention, and optimization. Okay, so those are the kind of the 3 pillars. What acquisition covers is paid media. So we're getting new eyes on the products and getting new customers to try their products for the first time. And then retention covers email mostly. We build out funnels and email campaigns for our clients that are bringing them back to buy again, retain them as customers over time and increase their LTV or lifetime value. And then the last thing is optimization. So that covers CRO, which is conversion rate optimization, and SEO, search engine optimization. So that's really more of the website, right? The storefront, making sure that all that traffic that we're driving to the site is converting. So with those 3 things combined, the hope is that we're scaling their revenue and helping them grow. So these are just kind of 10 lessons. I guess there's probably 10 in here that I have learned throughout my career and wanted to share them with you today. So I was at BYU, Idaho a whole lifetime ago, and I started in engineering. I thought, maybe that would be fun. And so my very first semester, I took very, very specific engineering classes. I did not like it. I struggled, kind of questioning, like, is this really what college is like? This is kind of miserable. I ended up getting a D in one of my engineering classes and just kind of like thought, dang, like, this is college. Am I screwed? For lack of a better term, like, what do I do? Getting a D in college. But I realized, everything's gonna be okay. Switched to biology, thinking, well, maybe I'll just go into a professional field, a medical field. But I was just still very miserable. Classes were not fun. I was taking organic chemistry, yikes. And I just wasn't happy. College at this point wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I was just kind of questioning everything. It wasn't until I switched to communication that I really started to enjoy my classes. And then I was like, oh, okay, college can be enjoyable. Learning can be fun. And I had an emphasis in marketing and advertising. And the rest of my undergrad is kind of history there. But the reason so that's kind of the first thing is, everything starts with a growth mindset. I think that I've learned that that's the foundation. Has everyone heard growth mindset versus fixed mindset? I would assume so in 2025, but frankly, when I was your age, I had never heard that concept before. But I just think everything's more available nowadays. And there's all podcasts, YouTube, whatever, to hear that information. And for me, this book I recommend to everybody, which it's called Mindset. It's by Carol Dweck, The New Psychology of Success. It talks about your mindset across parenting, business, school, relationships. And so if you've read it, awesome. If you haven't, go grab a copy. Because it really was like an epiphany for me, the concept of a growth mindset. And so for me, it's that foundation of if I am willing to have a growth mindset, whatever comes my way, like I can work on it, I can get better at it. I accept challenges and almost look forward to them because I have that growth mindset. So that's kind of that initial thing. Second thing is, stay curious. You don't just graduate high school and stop learning or college. And when I'm hiring here at Wallaroo, I would say I hire more for character than skill set. It's important to hire the right people. There's almost nothing more important than that on a team. And curiosity is very attractive. When I was graduating, in my capstone project, I was building a website. Now this was 2008, so a long time ago. Wasn't as easy. I built it in Photoshop. And then I was like, well, how do websites get found online? I was just very curious about this. How can you build a business online? How can you drive traffic? And anyway, so that was my first job out of college, was an SEO copywriter. So I was writing copy for this company called Yellowstone Hotel Systems up in Rexburg, Idaho. So they would help mom and pop hotels and bed and breakfasts to get found online. Because the ones that are getting found are the big ones, Marriott's, and so they built a booking software. So it was my job to help them get found online with SEO by what I was writing and building writing a lot of content for them. So yeah, when you graduate, continue to be curious and be a lifelong learner is kind of the principle there. So we moved down here to Utah after my wife graduated, and I got a job at 1-800-CONTACT. You guys know that's in Draper. And I also, at the exact same time, so I started there in June, and then I decided to go get my MBA at the U, and I was starting in September. And we had a baby in July, our second. So life was just crazy at this time. And so the reason I share this is what I've learned is, some days you're going to show up 50% of you, whether that's work or school, maybe it's even at home. Some days you're going to be 100%, maybe it's 80, whatever. Just keep showing up, whatever you can bring. And this is probably one of, I would say, the most important lessons I've learned in my career, because my career path is nothing special. I haven't quit. I just keep showing up every day, whatever I can give. And so, this one has stuck with me. I was working all day and then driving up to University of Utah campus from 6 to 10 to go to night school for 2 years. And then a year in, we had another baby. So my wife's at home, 2 babies. And we look back at that time, honestly, it's kind of a dark period, but we're very grateful for it too, because of what it taught us, the growth we have, and just this idea of, just keep showing up. How bad things are going, whatever, you're going to get through it. And so whether it's school or work, whatever, bring whatever you can to the table. I graduated from the U in 2013. And I left 1-800-CONTACT. I went to an agency called 97th Floor, which is here in Lehigh. And they did SEO and content. But a lot of their clients were asking for ads. Like, can you do paid media? Can you manage our Google ads? At this time, Facebook ads was becoming a much bigger thing. And so they wanted to expand and create a department for that. So that was my background. I don't know if you guys have heard the concept of a T marketer, but basically what that means is you're very familiar with all the different channels, right? So you understand strategy for ads, email, affiliate marketing, influencers, all the different things. but you get really good at one of those things, an expert. So that you can always, essentially do the work, get in the weeds and do the work. And so I was a team marketer in the sense that I know paid media very well. But I can talk email, I can talk almost any part of marketing, right? But paid media is my expertise. So they hired me as director of paid media. And I built the team from just me to a team of 5. So I hired 4 people over the span of 3 years. I loved it there. It's a great company. But then one Friday afternoon, I pulled into my supervisor, the VP's office, and he fires me. And this really came out of nowhere, at least like kind of in my perception. And it was a gut punch, to say the least. Because again, I loved working there, loved the team that I built. But what I realized was exactly this, that no one cares what you did yesterday. It's a kind of about, what are you doing today? What are you doing today to bring value to whatever you're doing? You can have all the accolades, and I think sports is a really good way to think about it. The professional sports, they just push you out once you don't bring that value. It's about meritocracy, really. And so I learned this important lesson at this time. I think I had built this team, and I kind of felt like entitled to that job and what I had built there, and maybe got complacent a little bit. And just kind of thinking about, man, look at what I've done here. But really it was, yeah, we're grateful for that, but what are you doing today? What else are you going to do for us? Because we're still paying you. And anyway, so that's kind of my, I don't know what we're on, 4th or 5th lesson, and that was a really had a really big impact on my life. And just to kind of follow up with that, getting fired, I was looking for work for a couple months. I had 4 kids at home, pretty stressful. I think that for a while, I was kind of feeling like the victim, woe is me mentality. How dare they fire me? Like I'm going to be hard to replace, or, all those kind of thoughts I tell myself to make myself feel better. So I got a job that was not a good fit for me, but I felt kind of like I needed to just take it because I needed a paycheck. And I quickly found out, this isn't going to work for me. And so I just kind of, even after getting a job, I was just like, man, what's going on? What's wrong with me? Like, am I even going to get back on track? And so the concept here is that, you have 2 things that you can control in any situation. And that's your attitude and your effort. There's so much outside of your control. Most things are outside of your control. And you just have to be able to take a deep breath and let that stuff go. And I know that's easier said than done. But this is when, I'm so grateful I got let go. Because it sent my career on a completely different projection that I don't think I would have if I hadn't learned these lessons and gone through that. So I realized I just kind of was like, you know what? I'm done feeling sorry for myself. I'm going to start controlling my attitude and not be a victim anymore. And I'm going to put the effort in to get back on track. So that's what it took. So those are the 2 things you can always control in your life. So over the course of 3 years, I want to say, from getting let go, and then I was at a couple different companies, I knew one of the founders of Wallaroo, where I'm at now, because I coached his son in soccer. And, we would talk after games. He would ask me, hey, how can I, because I coached his son. So he would come up to me like, hey, how can I get my son to be a faster runner? So, just random stuff like that. But we got to talking marketing and stuff. He knew I had been at 97th floor. So I was just giving him ideas, like how to grow his agency, what he could expand on, which at this time, I think our first conversation was around YouTube. They weren't doing any YouTube ads or anything. I was like, you should lean into YouTube. It's untapped potential. And this was 2018. And so, that really didn't lead to anything. But what it did was it piqued his interest. It put me on his radar. And, I didn't really think anything of it. And then it was like kind of 2 or 3 times a year for the next couple of years, he would call me, text me, be like, hey, we want you to come work at Wallaroo. Here's the role, here's what you'll be doing. But it just didn't make sense at the time. But then finally it did. The stars aligned. They said, hey, okay, we want him and his founder. We're going to actually step away from the day-to-day. Our current VP is going to become CEO, and we want you to come in and be VP and run the team. And that sounded really exciting. And they even said, if this works out, you can become a partner eventually and have equity in the company. And that's kind of what I wanted. That at that point in my career, I was looking to be a bigger part of something that I had ownership of. So I said, yes, I took it on. And so I did that for a year. This was 2021. And as we all know, that was right in the thick of COVID. So what had happened at Wallaroo in 2020, everyone went remote. And when you're a digital marketing agency, hey, if you have internet and a computer and a phone, you're good. You can do your job. So even a lot of colleges now have a lot more remote schooling than they used to. But we had to, so this was before I started, but they went all remote for like a year. So when I came on, that's kind of what was one of my biggest challenges, was like, how do I manage a remote team? I've managed smaller in-person teams. Now I have a team of like 20 people and they live all over the country. And it felt very overwhelming. So the concept, I guess what I'm trying to say here ultimately is, it was uncomfortable, overwhelming, but whenever you can, lean into that discomfort in your life and choose intentional discomfort. What can you do early in your day, every day, that's going to be uncomfortable? Because it's going to make the rest of your day way easier. And I was getting calls from clients saying they're upset. They didn't want to work with us anymore. Team members wanting to quit or whatever. So many issues that you have at an agency. And we have roughly, right now we have about 70 clients. But if you've done something early in your day that was just really uncomfortable, it truly makes that other stuff that you deal with throughout your day a lot easier. And so choose to do something early and often that just increases your mental toughness, because what it builds is resiliency and confidence to just be able to tackle whatever comes your way. So we're coming close to the present day here. A year after I was VP, the 2 founders showed up on my doorstep and they're like, hey, we want you to be CEO. And I wasn't expecting this. Truthfully, I wanted it. I thought I could do it after helping run the team for a year. And I had a lot of good ideas, but yeah, it was very unexpected. And I think that part of the reason they wanted me to is because what they saw in me was someone that could make the hard decisions, not always the easy decision, but the right decision most of the time. Because I had built that discipline in my life and routine. So I was very grateful for this opportunity. But now I immediately kind of felt like, this is a lot. I have a team of 25-ish people. I have a family, wife and 4 kids, other responsibilities. Like, how do you manage it all? How do you tackle all that? And, the responsibility of this company surviving, it just felt like the weight was on my shoulders, more so than just as VP, because the buck stops with me, Anyway, so there's just kind of this overwhelming feeling of all this. And so this kind of goes along with the last one, but what I've said recently or told myself is, be unapologetically selfish, but that is so that you can be as selfless as you want with everybody in your life later. So if you're taking care of yourself, and yeah, I'm talking about the basics here. Diet, exercise, sleep are the big three. Again, like I've already said, you will be able to show up for everybody that is in your life. And so I'm able to be there for my kids, or a team member that needs me, or someone at church, whoever it is. And so that's kind of a mantra that I've adopted over the years, more recently, because also you kind of feel like guilty. Like, am I being selfish by taking this time for me? Should I be doing something else? No. The example of an oxygen mask in an airline, they always tell you to put yours on first. So that's really the concept here. Put your mask on so that you can put the mask on the people around you. And this has been a big one for me. Sometimes it is challenging. Sometimes you feel guilty or whatever, but it always pays off. I'm going to butcher the phrase, but it's like, you have 100 problems until you only have one, when you're sick or not healthy. Once you're sick, and we can all relate to that, like nothing else matters, but like, I can't wait to be healthy again. So just show up for yourself first and foremost, and then you'll be able to do whatever you want with those other people that matter to you. Okay, so as I was getting used to managing a remote team, I've implemented a lot of things that have allowed Wallaroo to survive in a remote world. We do have, now we probably have like 25% of our staff is in Utah, but we're all over, at least within the US. And so something that I had learned earlier, but I decided like this needs to be implemented here is we're not going to track hours. We're not going to babysit our staff. We are going to give them full autonomy over their time, their schedule, their clients, because what that's going to breed is a relationship of trust between us. I don't know what percent, probably a decent percent, the full-time employees at Wallaroo I've never met in person. But I trust them. And so we give our team full autonomy. But what we ask for it and what we expect is accountability in return for that. So I think it's like we as humans, we just thrive in this environment, being treated like adults, not being micromanaged, and feeling like someone's looking over your shoulder and telling you what to do all day. It's liberating to have control over what you're responsible for. And so that has helped us thrive in this remote world. But they know if they're not bringing their A game, if they're not showing up every day, if they're losing clients and not retaining clients, there's going to be consequences. So the accountability can come with good or bad consequences. I've implemented a monthly bonus structure for my team. And if they are retaining clients, upselling them on other service, on the service, or cross-selling, we say, let's say a client's doing ads, but then we cross-sell them to email or to SEO. You can get a monthly bonus and you can get a piece of that because I want to thank you for that. And so they can be good or bad, right? But if you're doing the reverse of that, maybe not everyone thrives in this environment. That's how I operate. That's how I think majority of people do. I do think there's a subset that likes to be just told what to do. Tell me exactly what I need to do. I will do that, but nothing more. So that person's not going to be a good fit at Wallaroo because we need you to be proactive. I need you to know exactly like what's right for your clients and go and do that without me having to tell you what to do. I don't have the time to do that. I don't want to do that. So this is our leadership team here. And yeah, just last on this, it's built a really good culture. People enjoy working at Wallaroo. We have employees that have been here a very long time. Not very many leave and we grow. And so pretty proud of that. And yeah, just a quick quote on that. You guys know who Jocko Willink is, but discipline equals freedom. Okay, so we want to give them that freedom, but you have to bring the discipline. All right, finishing up here. Again, AI. So if it's cheesy, it's chat's fault. Just a few more thoughts here. So I'm not done with my journey. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 5 years from now. And that's usually like a question. I feel like you'll get an interview or whatever, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I hate that question. I don't know, and I don't want to know where I'm going to be in 5 years. Sure, I have things I want to be doing, or maybe a certain amount of money I want to be making. But if I knew where I was going to be in 5 years, would I show up today the same as if I don't know? Would I give it my all? So enjoy the journey, enjoy where you're at now. And wherever that is, there's ups and downs. And it's easier said than done on those downs, but just enjoy it. And that's what I'm trying to do, be present, enjoy where I'm at now. And then lastly, kind of already touched on this, but just never be entitled. And I think that's probably one of the most toxic traits anybody can have. And I've been guilty of this in my career. When I graduated with my MBA, I felt entitled to a raise. Why? Am I bringing more value to my company just because I have a degree now, a graduate degree? No. I mean, yeah, I have more knowledge. There's probably more value I can bring, but it was like, hey, I have this degree now, pay me more money. That I was being entitled. Okay, and it sets everyone up for disaster, really, presenting others. But what I think the inverse of that is just being grateful. It's very difficult to be grateful and entitled at the same time. So that's kind of what I had for you today. That's a little bit of my story, what I've learned along the way. So you can scan that, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, you said on your LinkedIn that YouTube ads are your personal favorite. Why is that?
That's a good question. So I do love creative strategy, and that's probably where it stems from. You guys all have been on YouTube. I guess if you pay to not see ads, then that's that's the life right there. But YouTube ads are a very unique beast of their own, and that's because YouTube is a very unique platform. So you have to treat it differently. You can't really just expect an ad that's maybe doing well on TikTok or Instagram to perform well on YouTube. You're just constantly scrolling with your thumb on those other platforms, but people go to YouTube intentionally to watch stuff. And a lot of those reasons are, well, I want to be entertained right now. I want to learn something. And so you have to lean into, well, why are these people coming to YouTube? How can I get people to watch my ad and not click those 5 seconds? Skip, right? So I think why I got into marketing, and when I discovered that I like marketing, it's because I love to figure out, like, why do people do what they do? I love the psychology behind why do people buy what they buy. And so on the marketing end of that, how can I get people to buy this product, and not like in a manipulative way, but like, hey, what emotional trigger can I trigger inside of you that's going to make you first like care about this, and maybe realize like, yeah, that would add value to my life. So that's more in general, but the YouTube specific, it's its own beast, versus these other channels. So yeah, I like working in there. Yeah.
You kind of talked about like just now with like the psychology of marketing. How would you say like the correlation with like we're going into communications for a while? Like how did that correlate with marketing, or do you see like that like helping you currently right now? Or
You mean versus like going like in a degree in psychology?
yeah, well, almost like what are the like correlations between like communications and your marketing currently? Like how does that help you nowadays?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's a more important skill than being able to communicate well, honestly. You get clients or employees that are just bad at communicating, and it is very frustrating. So there's nothing more important. I use it every day, but I actually, when I was in school, I mean, we're talking 2005, okay, to 2008. So digital marketing was like barely a concept. I was learning radio ads, TV ads, print, which is there, those all still exist. But then I graduated, and it was right during that shift, maybe a couple of years where it's like every company's now thinking about, wait, yeah, but how do I get found online? I need to be doing Google ads, search ads, and I haven't learned any of that in school. Most of what I've learned has been on the job because of kind of my timing. But a lot of the same concepts that I learned apply to digital marketing. And, so does that answer it?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think to kind of finish up every interaction we have with people without us like really knowing, like so subconsciously, there's psychological factors going on, whether it's what I'm actually saying or my body, what I'm telling you, without us even knowing. And so yeah, psychology is huge. And I think if you can kind of grasp that and just like kind of understand how people think, you can do really well in marketing.
What other questions do you guys have?
So you talked about wanting your new hires to know, I mean, well, generative AI, how do you control the usage of generative AI in marketing, copyright issues, stuff like that?
Yeah, it's the wild, wild west right now. So, I mean, I use ChatGPT probably every day. And then I think that's like the foundation, I think that everyone kind of first dives into. So that's a concern that's been brought up on our team. We have ethical versus unethical. I think most of the major platforms will tell you if it's against copyright at this, like, I can't make that, it's against terms or whatever. At least I've had ChatGPT tell me that before. So I think it's a very large gray area right now that we're still figuring out. I mean, honestly, I don't even know if I have a good answer for you because it's so new, but everything's like advancing so quickly too. That I'm sure, the government will get their hands in it too and want to regulate it. But yeah, I believe it'll continue to just kind of hockey stick, if you guys understand that concept. Because AI is advancing so quickly, and then it's just going to exponentially continue to advance. Like I'm hope, and the government, like they're slow. So we'll see if they can catch up and get regulation around it. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's more of like a hopefully. Right now, it's probably like self-regulation, a lot of it, and you just have to. I mean, with our clients, we are doing a lot of ad copy, email copy, like in chat, we're building out strategy decks, auditing campaigns in there. So if it's just ideation, that you're looking for out of ChatGPT, it's amazing. But what I like to do, and me and Whitney were talking about this before the class, but like you have to make sure your the follow-up prompts are so crucial. You know, because it can give you first false information. I think at least right now, it's like 50 to 60% inaccurate sometimes. But that's what I'm saying on the ideation side, it's like it can't be wrong when it's just trying to give you a creative idea on an app. You might not like the idea, but it's not necessarily wrong, you know? So we've leaned in heavily and, you know, myself, my business partners, we're the ones that are gonna be in charge of making sure it's ethical and it's lawful. So,
Any other questions?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, what makes you become your journey being so difficult, like you graduate college, you get a master's degree and like a full-time job. What makes you feel difficult your journey? Like how hard is it?
sorry, I'm not sure if I understand the
What
question.
are some of the challenges that you face through your career journey, or what are some of the friction points?
I mean, I saw, gosh, everything I addressed, you know, going to school full time and working full time. Getting laid off, not having a consistent paycheck. You know, I guess there are two big ones that I can think of, but. Then there's just kind of like the day to day. And the hard decisions or hard things that happen and so that's kind of why, you know. I'm saying, you know, lean into discomfort, get used to being uncomfortable because. You're gonna feel it all the time. And there's no avoiding it, so where you can choose to lean in, and it'll help you in those times when it's hard.
What else do you guys have? What's your favorite way to network?
Ooh, I love that question. First off, definitely network. It so often is who you know. And you know, maybe that's unfortunate or not. I love to kind of know what are local events that I can attend. There's so many marketing events, business events happening, and most of them, you know, there's no requirements. You know, you don't have to. I mean, sure, there's somewhere it's like these are for C-suite people. This event, you know, if you're an SEO, or sorry, a CEO or a founder, but a lot of them are just like, hey, it's like a lunch and learn. Just show up, and it's not always easy. And I don't think I've always been good at this, and still aren't. But you have to put yourself out there, and just like, hey, my name's Eric, and really just be willing to meet new people. So in person, like, is so much better than online. Meet people, but also LinkedIn. You guys take advantage of LinkedIn. I know that you can feel imposter syndrome. If you guys know what that is, but it's like, no, I'm not good enough. I don't know enough about this to even talk about it. But you do. You have your lived experience. You know a lot of things. Just start talking about things, share it. It doesn't even have to be business or marketing related. And right now, I would say, as far as like organic reach, LinkedIn has a really good algorithm. You know, some of your posts might fall flat on their face. Some might get tens of thousands of impressions. And so that's the best way I've networked online is through LinkedIn. And I have some really close connections that honestly I've never met in real life, but I trust them and I send them business or they send me business just because we've networked online on LinkedIn.
Fernando?
Yeah, with you switching from degree to degree, how much was that like more like? Where you decided to do that like more research based, and how much was it like people telling you about it versus like staff? Nice.
You're saying when I was in school?
Yeah, because you mentioned you would switch, I think you started as an engineer then in this,
I mean, I would say most of it was like an internal struggle. Cause it's like, man, I really hate this. Or, you know, calling my mom on the phone, being like, why am I in college? I hate this. Yeah, so that's another thing, like, I didn't really go to my professors. Which I think you should take advantage of amazing people like Whitney. They're here to help you, and like, I did go to like a counselor. But that was more after I had gotten to the communication, I was like, okay, I know I've wasted a lot of credits and time, how quickly can I graduate? But, that, which goes back to your question too about networking, classmates and professors are huge, you know, professors know so many people. And sometimes it's just like, you're one person away from who you want to talk to. So who is that person that you want to talk to? And what connections do you know that, you know, to that person? So shout out to professors.
But it's true, again, this is our, like, all of our speakers have talked about the importance of networking and especially LinkedIn. We had another speaker who mentioned that what was his company again? His did digital marketing too. Oh, yeah, right. Bobby Macy.
I know him, yeah.
Yeah,
He's awesome.
right, and so he was telling us how much business he gets from LinkedIn. And I was like, wow, that's more than I would think you would get from LinkedIn. And then the very next day, it was, David Politis put a post on LinkedIn asking for a videography company. And so I was already connected with Bobby and said, hey, David Politis needs a video company ASAP. And like, I think that actually came to fruition. And so just that connection with me, David and Macy got him business, like, right there.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I was talking with you about this again before class, but one of our clients is Ballerina Farm. They're a pretty big brand, at least like organically online. They're homesteaders, they've built a big following, and they recently just launched products and so needed help with their marketing. And the director of marketing there posted like, hey, we're looking to hire an agency, which if you're a brand and you post that on LinkedIn, like, just watch out, like, you're gonna get the sharks circling, you know, they smell blood. And she would update it later, like, okay, we haven't done, please stop commenting. But one of our clients commented on the post, we work with Wallaroo Media and we love them. And they ended up signing on with us, but like, there were 40, 50 other comments of people referring other agencies. And so, but it can get your foot in the door, and then you just have to prove yourself, you know? So the connections are amazing.